And Mike, I did see. Okay, it is 6:05. I will now call to order the May 18th special council meeting, the Amity City Council. Please rise and join me for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bojorquez, present. Acie Dunlap is absent. April Dyche, present. Cody Goings, Sandy McArthur, present. Denis Saucier is absent, and Mayor Richard here. Thank you. We'll start the evening with citizens' comments or questions. Don't see anyone in the audience. So hearing none, we'll move on to old business, of which there is none, and right into new business. And start the evening with A, acceptance of the water system improvement project bid.
I'm going to turn it over here to Cody in a second, but each of you have a document in front of you, which is the budget. I just want to go through this real quick. Two of the councils have already heard this, so it's a little bit of a repeat. Okay, so so this is the budget that we've Keller, myself, and USDA have come to the conclusion on as correct ones. If you look at the totals there on the right in red ink, this is what USDA is going to say the total cost of the project is going to be, all inclusive, which is reservoirs, the emergency filters, everything. Will come out to $11.806369 million. So you can see basically how it's broken down. Items that have been crossed out and redone in red, those are basically small changes that the USDA felt were necessary to keep the budget intact. So when Mr. Goings, Cody here briefs kind of what the bids were and what we came up with, that's already been incorporated into this. So if you select this bid, that's what the number will work out to be here on this document. So just kind of giving you that for reference as to the overall project costs. I've provided my agenda item with all the background information. So without wasting too much time, I'm going to turn it over to Cody to provide the presentation.
Those of you that don't know, we have Cody Snow. We have Keller Associates. Been working on this project here for a little while. All three of them from the reservoir water system improvements and the EFI project, the filters. So as you guys know, we went out to bid earlier in the year. We had 5 bidders on it, really good interest. Had some technical issues with all of the bids. Ended up putting it out for rebid. They closed last Tuesday. 3 of the 5 fell out and 2 remained. The 2 that were there were Strider out of Washington and McArthur & Sons out of Washington as well. We have reviewed all of their bidding documents that were supplied in length. We found that Strider at the time of bid opening was the apparent low bidder, and McArthur was the second lowest bidder, the only other one. We went through to check for responsiveness and responsibilityness, and we found that Strider was the one that was both most responsive and most responsible in meeting all of the financial requirements, all the USDA requirements, all the signatures and check boxes that needed to be filled out. And then more importantly, looking through, there was some specific requirements about the qualifications and experience of the bidder. That being that they had to have at least $5 million in backlog in the last couple of years, and that they've done at least 3 projects that are over $6 million and similar to our project. Strider had 3 that they supplied. One was a water treatment plant, a wastewater treatment plant, and a water filter project, which is everything that we currently have. The water treatment plant is the last one that we need to get done. So they've shown that they are qualified to work on everything water, wastewater, and filter related. So McArthur had a couple smaller issues with their bid. So with Strider having everything that they needed to submit and they met all the requirements and they've got really good experience, we felt that there's no reason not to recommend the award to Strider in the full amount of the contract. There was a base bid, $100,000 allowance that was in there, and then two additive bid alternates. So it came to a total of $7,810,000 was the total award amount. And as Mike said, that number has already been provided to USDARD pretty much right when we opened it and loaded into this budget that we have here. So in the event that Strider is awarded, no budgetary amounts will need to change on this spreadsheet, but if McClure is chosen for any reason, those values will need to increase by about $300,000 on the base, plus whatever additional administrative work is required to work on a project that has a little bit higher bid amount.
If you, real quick, if you look at the budget document I gave you, if you look at intake and WTP construction, you'll see the construction cost total, no contingency, is $7,685,000, plus the ABI 1 and 2 construction total cost is the $125,000. That totals the $7,810,000 Cody just stated. Let's digest that for a moment, and then we're open for any questions.
Was this company one of the original 5?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And then what? I don't know. So that's right. What was the reason for rejecting their bid the first time, and how did they remedy that?
So last time there's an Oregon revised statute or administrative rule, I don't recall exactly, but there's a requirement for all public works bids that there has to be some sort of supplement to a bid that says whether or not they're a resident Oregon bidder. Because we have in the state of Oregon, there's a preference to award contracts to local contractors. All 5 of the bidders did not supply that, whether there was actually one, sorry, the low bid last time did provide that they were a resident bidder, but the other 4 did not. But due to the possibility of opening up protests and claims against the city, we wanted to make sure that we would just go ahead and rebid it. So we made it even clearer in the rebid, and we had an actual form for them that they didn't have to supply it. We supplied them the form, and they filled it out and submitted it in.
Good to hear that was pretty insignificant. And then between the 2 remaining, they were both from Washington, correct?
Correct. So they both, their home offices are up in northern Washington, but Strider actually is an Oregon resident bidder. They've done work in the last 12 months in Oregon, and they have an Oregon office in Salem. So they've met the minimum requirements for the Oregon law.
How were the requirements figured into this, needing to do so many different jobs, the total $6 million?
So how did those requirements come about? That was a little bit before my time, but from what I've heard, it was a collaboration between the city and Keller staff and USDARD that is something that they've seen on typical large water treatment plant projects and wastewater treatment plants, any mechanical treatment. That way it kind of weans out some of the smaller folks that may not be as experienced in this type of work. So the budgetary amounts as far as their financial requirements is, I believe, I don't know where the $50 million in backlog came from, but the $6 million is what the engineer's estimate was for this project. So we wanted it to be apples to apples comparison. So we said to provide at least 3 projects that are at a minimum of $6 million. And the 3 that Strider provided, they were anywhere from $9 to $12 million each.
I'm sorry, did you say at least 5 projects at first, or?
It was 3.
Oh, 3. Okay, so the requirement was 3 and they provided 3.
Well, they provided way more than that, but those were the 3 that were closest to the requirements. But both bidders supplied 20+ projects and personnel. All the staffing will be on the project.
Strider has an Oregon office
In Salem, yeah.
Substation or whatever.
Yeah, their legal office is in Salem, so.
Out of curiosity, how much, do you know, how much did their bid change from the first round to the second?
It's actually interesting. The first round, Allworth was the lowest bid, McClure was second, and Strider was third. And this time around, Allworth did not bid. Strider and McClure obviously did, and McClure and Strider swapped place. So Strider went from third to second, McClure second to third. And the bid difference between second place last time and first place this time was like $30,000 cheaper.
Interesting, that's not what I anticipated, but maybe.
Correct, yeah. So a couple different ways that you can look at it. One that, you know, everyone knows what the number to beat was, so you wanted to get a little bit under that, but with rebidding a project a month later, the costs of everything are going up. You had to get rebids. So we were anticipating it to get a little bit higher, but Strider really wanted it, so they cut some fat and ended up getting it. For being the lowest, I should say.
Do you have any other questions from the council?
Do you have any expectations on change orders for this project or parameters for it or?
So that usually falls out of just the contingency budget, because you never know what you're going to encounter out there. We always try to mitigate additional cost and dealing with change orders. So that's kind of where additive item 2 came on here. Is it was an attempt at creating a comparison item for change orders for the archaeological work. Because at this time, we're not sure how many sites we're going to find or what can be found out there. So we just said, hey, assume X number, you're going to be shut down for a day each time. How much is it going to cost for you to relocate and be shut down for those days? So now if we have one shutdown, we know that it's, you know, if 5 costs this much, 1 should cost this much. So trying to find ways to minimize that, because if we didn't have that item during bidding, contractor could just say, you know, it's going to cost however much, and they give us whatever monetary amount.
Are there a lot of people that couldn't rebid based on the new parameters of what qualified you to bid on the project?
The parameters for the bidders qualifications did not change between the first bid and second bid. So the lowest bidder last time was unaware of the requirements, and upon rebidding the second time, they found out that they actually did not meet the requirements, so they fell out. The other 2 that did not bid, Slayton and Fowler, JW Fowler, they were 4th and 5th last time, and it seems like they couldn't lose enough of their budget, so they just didn't rebid.
I would say we had a pointed conversation throughout this process to ensure that we did not have a repeat of things, basically how the water reservoir project panned out. So we were trying to put in some safeguards to ensure that the bidder could actually perform the work without too many hiccups.
If there's nothing else, I'll ask for a motion from the council.
So the motion, if I may, would be to, if you wanted to fill in the blanks, Strider, and then the total would be for $7,810,000. That's the motion somebody wants to put forward.
I move to accept the bid from Strider in the amount of
$810,000.
$7,810,000 and approve the city administrator to obtain all the required funding through USDA/RE to complete the entire project.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to accept the bid from Strider in the amount of $7,810,000. Further discussion? That motion also approves the city administrator to obtain all required funding through USDA/RD to complete the entire project. With that, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Cody, and thank you for all the work you have done. Business for tonight is acceptance of the new municipal court judge contract.
So I have one minor change to this one. This is the contract that City of Carlton put together. So as an example, I spoke with Shannon this morning. She actually said the city could take this and adapt it to be their own contract. We would also want to set our own cost. The main purpose for this is to just give me and the Mayor King the authority to basically go through with this to its logical conclusion, to negotiate the contract and go forward with this process. So we wanted to at least give you an introduction of and all the information is provided here, but kind of give you an introduction of what the contract was should look like, what they're asking of their judge, how they're putting everything forward, the judge's letters of recommendations and resumes, as well as all of his documentation, just so you know what we're getting. I actually sent you an email about right before the meeting started. We have Mayor Watkins and Manager have invited Mayor King and I to meet the judge in Carlton on the 31st to basically do a meet and greet and then start the contract negotiations if you give us the approval to do so. So that's where we are with this agenda item. And without going into too many more details, I'm open for questions, comments, concerns.
So I'll say they did a pretty robust RPI, RFP, whatever they needed, put it out. And this guy, was this the only?
So we did ask Judge Ross why he did not reapply. He gave the City of Amity and City of Carlton 2 different answers, but it basically came down to he didn't feel like it was competitive for him to do this again. So this is the only applicant.
Yeah. So they did only have one applicant, but after that came in, Mike and I went to Carlton, met with their manager, mayor, chief of police, really went over it to see if before it was brought to Carlton's council to accept, if they wanted to, wider net because of only one. But as you can see, there was no red flags. He works for a lot of communities, all of them. Letters of reference came back really well. This is a position we do need to fill.
So the estimated cost, Carlton is going to pay him $500 a month. We did budget more in our budget for a higher cost for the judge. I think we doubled it. However, he is aware that each city that he contracts with currently will be Carlton, Amity, and looking right now is also Sheridan. That each city will negotiate its own cost with the judge directly. So we could set a lower cost per visit, basically, if we needed to or can. So.
And previously, we paid for costs $200 a month, and we've now budgeted for
$4,000 total.
Oh, 4,000.
I think we had initially budgeted $2,000 a year or something. So we've doubled the budget basically for the judge, but.
And so the motion is not to approve a contract if you don't have the. It's just to accept to offer this judge.
And then go into contract negotiation.
Yeah.
Basically to approve this judge and to go into contract negotiations, that would be kind of the style of the motion, yes.
But then it would allow Mike to just do the work, he to sign anything.
We have to have 4 of us.
So,
I've worked with Judge Blake before, so I wondered if I need to recuse myself from the vote.
It's probably not a bad idea to be on the
I
same
just,
side.
that's right.
And there- and
That's
there-
gonna
we
give
still
us a
have
quorum.
quorum.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, because you would then vote in absence of a quorum, if that would make a quorum.
If that's allowable, that's what I'm.
check our signature. I think it is.
I'm pretty sure if we don't have a form, she can step in
Yeah.
to make a form.
Because that would make me most comfortable.
Okay.
Oh, we don't need people going, oh, well, she.
I mean,
Yeah.
granted, it was, you know,
Well, I appreciate you
29,
speaking
30
up,
years
yeah.
ago, but still.
Don't give anybody any ammunition.
It was a lifetime ago, but still.
Well, he's worked in Newburgh, he's worked.
He's worked everywhere,
everywhere.
so it would really probably be difficult with anyone with law enforcement tries not to work with them.
I'm not aware of.
I would say.
Let's see, current, I'm looking at what it says here.
Yeah, there's contingencies to when the mayor would step
If
in.
there's a tie,
And
and then if we're not a quorum. it
A
should be
quorum, I'm pretty sure, if her doing so constitutes a quorum. But I won't be quoted on that.
No, that makes sense because we can start and run a meeting and vote.
Yeah,
With.
Yeah, and
using
we've had to
the-
do it
yeah.
before, I just, is it okay for a work session, is it only in these certain circumstances, that's what I don't know.
Yeah.
Exceptions.
Well, and really, we're not even,
Let's see. So a majority of the council members in a quorum is to conduct business, but a smaller number may meet and compel attendance of absent members prescribed by council. The express opinion. Member. The mayor shall be entitled to vote regardless of whether or not there is a tie. With the consent of council, the mayor appoints members, commissions, etc. So you can vote.
We can also just have consensus because this is not a legislative matter.
we're not approving, that's why I'm looking at it, we're not approving the contract, we're just giving you.
And then if council was more comfortable, we could bring the contract.
We're bringing the contract to a regular council meeting to approve.
I thought this was approving you. to
Yeah,
sign.
that's what we're trying to do.
Approving
because
and move
we
into
won't have it
negotiation.
By July.
I see what you're saying.
It says here, the mayor votes only in the event of a tie of council members voting. When a majority of the council as a whole must approve an action in which the mayor shall be entitled to a vote regardless of whether or not there is a tie. So in this case, you would be
That's
entitled.
only for ordinances. That's when the majority of the council is required.
Our boundaries.
Because we had to have this conversation with Bill.
So.
I mean, you could
Well, I didn't say I
abstain.
can just abstain.
No, let's do.
Yeah, I'll just abstain.
Okay.
That works.
Because you don't have a direct conflict of interest. It's just that we
No.
know, right?
He's not a relative,
Yeah, and you're not getting any financial gain.
and I'm not getting any
So
financial.
you can
gain,
just.
so I'll just abstain.
Yep.
If you're comfortable with that, if not. we can move it.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Is everyone else?
Okay, then how about I move that we accept the recommendation of Judge Larry Blake and approve the mayor to move forward into contract negotiations.
Second.
Okay, to clarify, to the motion with me to sign the contract for its meeting.
That's a good question. Do we need to have that brought to the council for a meeting,
Was it?
the finalized contract, or do we
If we do
give
that,
her
then we
a
don't
dollar?
have a judge.
Well, we have our dollar amount, so we know what's in our budget. So I guess.
So I guess that's it, if we stick with the budget.
Yeah, okay, then then I would, instead, move to approve Judge Larry Blake, and then move forward in the contract negotiation within our pre-approved budget and the mayor to sign the contract. Somehow worded nicer.
Hey, we have a motion, do I have a second?
Cody?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved to accept Larry Blake as the new municipal court judge, and proceed with contract negotiations inside of our approved budget and approve Mayor King to sign the contract for this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. And one abstention. Okay, looks like motion passes. Thank you.
Last order of business, new business, I'm ready to go if you are, ma'am.
Yes, the first reading of ordinance 675, water discontinuance.
Okay. So we have determined that we have a little bit of a glitch with, we just basically had a gap in our ordinances regarding how to discontinue water service for individuals. Our ordinance was good, but it missed the part about if you leave and you want to discontinue the use for a short period of time, if you leave and you want to permanently discontinue, would you still get billed? Do you not get billed? How do the bills get paid? Bill Monahan, myself, Tasha and Chrissy and Gary kind of hammered through this one and present the ordinance 675, and I'll read it by title. Ordinance amending ordinance 5108, discontinuing water supply of Amity's municipal code. And this basically adds the new verbiage in there in sections 2 and 3 and 4 that would basically allow us to have a temporary shut off, a permanent shut off, and then a vacation billings, vacation setting, which would be a fund. And in that process, we initially established a $90 per month standby rate. That is up to you to negotiate. I mean, that is a placeholder right now. So if you want to make that more or less, that is completely your choice. And you can make that as an amendment of the first reading. If there's any other changes you want to make to the ordinance that you see fit, we can do that as well. And then have that ready to go for the second reading. This gets us, let's see, was it a standby rate? Water charge. Also, you can decide if you want to change any of like the temporary water turn on period, how much to charge, how many times they can do that, the duration. So if there's any, basically, I'm giving you a completed document, but if you want to make changes in this first reading, here's your opportunity to modify, amend, change, adapt, anything that you see here.
I think the changes that were made really short of, and we talked about like those loopholes or the details that aren't there that need to be filled in order for us to enforce our code, and I think that these are necessary.
I have a question for the city. Is have we looked at what the loss of income will be to water? Like, is there a lot of people that have their water shut off that are still paying the fee within the city? Is there going to be a significant loss to?
I don't know off the top of my head, and maybe Tasha knows the answer.
I'd
I'm
say maybe,
not putting it on the spot.
we probably lose maybe 10,000 a year.
But it's not legal to continue to charge this.
Yeah.
And then to clarify, so it's for 1 month period. You can't do anything for less than 1 month.
That's correct. If necessary, we can amend that to make it more clear that it's a minimum of 1 month. I think it states that.
Yeah, let's make sure that's clarified.
Absolutely.
Like 1 calendar month or 1 30-day period?
Billing month, billing period.
Yeah, because those are legal differences and that could
Is there a
provide
preference?
us in the thought.
1 calendar month, 1 30-day period, 1 billing cycle.
Oh, maybe billing cycle.
Or billing cycle. Okay, we can fix that.
And then no remission of any charges will be made for a period of less than 1 month, but that doesn't consider if the property or it's changing hands, right? Like, there doesn't necessarily have to be a one shut off, because it would be a different person. Like, if someone came in,
Prorated, correct?
but I'm saying, if someone could come and shut off that account, it's not that property, it's that utility account, right?
Yeah.
And because they're not gonna have any extra charges for it being turned on within the month or anything.
How this came about is we had an individual depart and basically turned off their water and then came back and wanted it turned on again. And it was shortly after a month, but we kind of had already started to close out the accounts. We just got in this thing of, okay, well, is this, they said, we're gonna be coming back later to do more work on the house, so we may want to turn the water back on. Like, when is that gonna happen? We don't know. So it kind of became this thing, well, if we just keep charging the base rate, this sets up, and like, well, I don't live here anymore, and I'm not sure when I'm coming back. So it kind of exposed the weakness of this, and we handled that particular situation. Tasha and Gary figured it out, but it did pose a weakness in how the ordinance is read. So this is a good way to phrase it. As you said, Mayor King, was a loophole we're trying to close.
So in that situation now, if someone shuts it all the way down, they don't put it on standby, and then they come back 3 weeks later and say, I want my water turned on, they have to restart their service and pay those fees.
Yes.
But if a new account wanted to set up on the same property,
They would simply
We
just,
only have one open water utility.
right, but I'm saying that it could be shut down and turned back on by someone else the next day.
yeah,
Yes.
and that could
Or
be,
that same day, yeah.
Yeah.
that same day,
We
it's
did
just,
that a lot.
yeah. And that would just be the standard. I'm establishing a water utility account, and
Yeah.
they would pay their $150, fill out the form, and then we would start them into that current and or next billing cycle.
So in a situation where you have a landlord or someone who's wanting to do work on the property, you're having them turn the water on for a 1 month period, then
And what's like if
So
the,
usually if a renter moves out, we automatically put it into the owner's and start an active account.
Okay.
And now we've had it to where, this was another issue that was brought up. Tim Shipley called and said he was really upset that he was paying that base rate and no one was living there. And he said, this house, I'm remodeling it, this house is gonna be sitting here, I don't think I'm gonna get around to it for about 6 months. It's not fair that I'm doing this. So then we gave him the option to work out that week. Now this is giving me the option of doing that standby or temporary shutting down his or his application and then reactivating it. Instead of continuing paying for something that if there's no water, so we would shut the water off.
you shut it off and then.
Yes.
you turn it back on. Okay.
So their options would be, like his option, would be to take out that meter, or you can completely shut down your account and you'll have to pay for a deposit to start over again. Or you can do a standby and pay the standby rate for this. Another incident that has happened a couple times is I'll get a call from a daughter, her dad passed away. She's in California, she's in high school, he leaves the house for her. She's continuing to pay for that base rate when no one's there. She's like, I didn't know what I'm gonna do with this house. I didn't know what to do. So she's let it go to foreclosure. Well, that bill got up to almost $2,000. Where she preferred, here's a death certificate, I just wanna close this account and be done with it.
Well, that's pretty typical. It would.
Right, but she's still, currently our policy is you're still the owner,
Yeah.
you're responsible for paying that. That's kind of where all these little, everything just kind of added up, and I was like, we feel like really look into this.
so the plan, what we're giving you here is you could do a temporary shutdown, basically a permanent shutdown, and then you have the right to pull your water meter as well. Basically, and the closure of your account, and then there's the base establishment of the base rate. So $90 is, I think, I did the math, it's a little over half it's half the base rate rounded up to like the next total dollars or something. I think it came out to like 8726 or something, so I just rolled it up to 90 to make it a nice even number. But again, it's I did the math. 75. So that's where I'm just putting that in place. So if you don't like $90, you can drop it. So
And application for new services for electric tracker septic council resolution, that we're just leaving alone.
the council resolution, basically you pay the $150 for account opening, you pay your current rates and your installation or whatever is necessary. And obviously at a later date, if you change the water meter rates, I'm sorry, the water utility rates, you can come back and change this standby rate. I'm just trying to provide a starting point for a standby rate. And then the other one in here.
I think the inclusion of the public safety fee in the street fees in that is good. You're still part of the water, using the water utility part of the city. You're not gonna have a city water meter if you're not. Any other questions or motion?
I will say this too real quick. The standbys, so we have maybe 3 people in town that are considered
Snowbirds.
snowbirds. And so every week for Arizona that come back, like 4 or 5 months later. So, and they used to get a standby vacation rate, so it's been really hard for them to. This is another reason, this is another thing I got brought up. So that's more, I think, what we're thinking of for the standby is those snow, we do that leave for vacation. For a few months. There's not a lot, but there are some in town that do that. And
Well, I just see it as a necessity that we get some of these clarifications in writing. So I don't know if council has more input on what they'd like to see in the ordinance or changes.
What do the landlords in town generally do?
they just pay it, I mean, they don't have a choice. A lot of them want to keep the water on because they're clean.
That's
they
what
get-
I'm just wondering if they.
And they get somebody in there pretty quick. It's
Okay.
not usually, it's just there's some of them that, like I said, maybe a handful that would probably do the temporary, but majority of our landlords, they get mad if we shut their water off because they need to come in and clean the turn off.
Well, that's what I'm just wondering, like, I know Lafayette has a special thing that they have for landlords so that they can have it in there. It's for construction or whatever, or landlords for that purpose. And so I didn't know if there was something here or what the people here normally did. I understand we don't have a lot of rentals, so that's not, I mean, a lot of open rentals.
Right, yeah, so
So it's
currently
probably
they
not-
just get prorated for that time of service that, yeah.
Okay.
Usually it's like a 2-week turnaround, so they just get prorated.
Okay.
Or a handful that their house is sometimes sick.
This also came up with, we were discussing where this came from. If if a property owner sells their own house, departs, the house sits vacant. They're no longer living there, they're trying to sell it or something, it just sits there. we were still charging them the base rate, even though they had technically come in and closed their account. So there was some concern about it. That's where Bill Monahan presented me that ORS that basically states we can't do that. So this allows a person that would sell their own house to leave, and then the water would still be there and turn on, but they wouldn't be continually getting billed. So that was another process to do that as well.
So this makes sense with the way that things have been done previously, but why would someone request to remove their water meter versus just having it locked and turn off?
Because they were paying the base rate with it being there. So if they removed it, all services stopped.
So do we still need to offer the option to remove the water meter?
I think it's a good idea to offer the removal of the water meter, just in case they do want to make a clean break or.
So I'm just bringing up another incident regarding that.
Mhm.
The duplex is burned down over here. We're still charging the owner base rate for that.
Mhm.
And she asked to remove the meter because who knows how long it is for her to build. So in that case, she probably didn't want to start services again and all that and start an application, but she just wanted that meter gone. I see what you're saying. I don't see people using that as much anymore because they can just completely close their
Shut
account
off.
and then just pay that $100 deposit to get an account back. I think people will be utilizing that more, but there are still the incident, if it's.
There's no reason to take the option away.
Correct.
Right. That just seems like a lot of work and then.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to push more, just if we close it, then we just have to pay that deposit again, before we waive the deposit. But I think now, since we're offering these different, we'll just make sure customers are paying for a deposit. Because that history starts back over again. Yeah, it was like, we started talking about it, and then day after day, there was different. I'm like, well, maybe we need to change it because this just happened. So it's like everything, like we started talking about it, and everything was going wrong with it. It's like, oops. Yeah, yeah.
It was a necessary process to go through. I mean,
We've had a lot of different situations.
I bet.
Every scenario. It's been-
So like, I feel bad, and especially when it's like a kid who has no, like, I'm sorry.
no, there's nothing to be sorry for. I mean, these are just the things. Our code is much better than it was, but we're just finding places where it's inadequate. So June 1st, you'll see the sign ordinance come up. You're going to see another ordinance come up, and as I briefed before council previous meeting, now we're just finding, well, this is a shortcoming. Let's just tweak it and make it a little bit better, or fix it.
Everything's just outdated,
Yeah.
we're 15 years. This is different 15 years ago.
So we're gonna read this at the next meeting, correct?
Correct.
Second
Yes.
reading.
Yeah, so the second reading will be June 1st.
So what if someone wants their water shut off more than 6 months?
They would close their account fully.
Oh, okay, never mind. They could still close it. It's just-
The 6 month was to give basically, to give the summer vacation opportunity to somebody, like she mentioned, the snowbirds that would be willing to go for 6 months. And we also tried to limit the duration of some of these other ones.
So, maybe I just read this completely wrong. I was a little confused on the 7 day or.
Provide notice at least 7 days prior to the shut off.
Right, but then we talk about a 30-day requirement.
Well, and so what we're asking for is give us about a week's notice to let us know that you want to shut off your water, so that we have the opportunity to get Gary and his team out there to shut it off, so they can start the billing and the closing out of the accounts. We can do all the background administrative work, as opposed to, which we've had happen before, somebody calling us, well, I've already left and I'm out of town and I need you guys to shut off my water and we can't
Is
can't-
that today?
Yeah, we can't prove that you're here. We don't know, I mean, we don't know who's in there if you come back or something. So it gives us prior notice to do our due diligence to make sure and gives, us, especially if they want to shut the account or close it down, it gives us a chance to say, well, here's your final bill, here's what you're going to owe us. It kind of prevents somebody from bolting on us.
And where does the 30-day come in?
So 30 days is, they have to be gone for a minimum of 30 days.
Oh,
In a sense
I
that we,
totally get that.
so it's basically, so we're not shutting it off while somebody's on a 2-week vacation. We want to make sure they're going to be gone for a cycle period of time, because I can't have Gary out there shutting on and water for 2 weeks or 1 week at a time.
I just lost my train. Let the record show Councilor Dunlap is now in attendance. Oh, but the 30 days will be changed to 1 billing cycle, correct? So
We
that
can
it
change it to, a minimum of 1 billing cycle, or 1 month, or 1 billing cycle, or 1 month, whichever is greater, however you want it to be worded.
Is it easier, Tasha, to do billing cycle?
Yeah,
So.
Do that.
absolutely. So she's not counting.
Okay. So 1
We're
billing
waiting
cycle.
for a couple days this month.
We'll make it, we'll change that wording to 1 billing cycle.
still need a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we need a motion to adjust it?
Yes.
Oh, already done.
I just had one more question.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Did, when you estimated that $90 standby rate, did that initially include the public safety fee?
No, in fact, I just redid the numbers. It was the base rate plus the $15 that would be in fact divided by 2. That came out to 82.5, and then I just rounded it up to 90.
Okay.
Now, granted, that's a pretty sizable roundup, but I could round it down to 80, or I could. whatever you'd like it to
We
be.
have that, so that say, 10 years from now, when inflation and prices go up, have a way to have it accurately reflect current pricing.
Well, I think if every time you do a new rate study or change your water rates, you could go by resolution, you could go in and re-up your standby rate if you'd like. Or if you'd like, I can put a second sentence in there and state it's going to be $90 per month, blah, 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 which actually it does not include public safety and street fees. I can put that in there, take that out, and this rate may, it actually says this rate may be revised by council resolution as required.
I like it. I just
So
consider
I
it. might
recognize
be
that the city is gonna lose money, right, by this, but a standby fee of $90 seems a lot if you're also going to add on top of that street fees and
It would be, sorry,
safety fee.
so currently we do salmon, it would, I think you would still, it would split up.
So, yeah,
Like,
that's
we
what I'm
can't
saying.
just, if I put standby rate in there, it's a standby rate. I can't individually start billing for everything else.
Okay, because I think that $90 is an okay number, but I would want
Yeah.
the safety
so
fee
then
and
I would
that
break
the
up.
street fees to come out of that, not be on top of
I
it,
agree.
because over $90 is too much to charge for standby.
I agree. You're not getting anything out of it. and
Yes, so in the
$90.
system, it's just you click standby rate, and then from there, it divides up to the account, so I would
So
still
like
make
a
sure.
package deal.
So
Yeah.
it'd be standby rate to include.
And I would make sure it does for the public safety though,
Right.
because if somebody breaks into that house, we're still gonna need the cost.
So the language would be the standby rate, which includes.
Public safety and streets.
Like it.
Very
Good.
good. Got it. Okay, so that's already written in there, but we'll leave it at $90.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, the major change throughout the document or the ordinance is to change any mention of 1 month to basically 1 billing cycle, if I understand correctly.
Correct.
Okay. Easy.
Are there any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance 675 with the changes as directed by council, which were to change the billing cycle, to change the wording to include billing cycle.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 675 with the changes directed by council to change the wording of 1 month to billing cycle throughout the ordinance. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying no. Motion passes. That was our last item of new business. We'll move on to business from the mayor and councilors. County President Day. Do you have anything tonight?
I have a quick question, I guess, why is that very sitting here? It's been brought up, and I keep wanting to bring it to work session, but we haven't had a regular work session. But it's been brought up to me that, to my knowledge, we don't have any signage for, street signage for directions to the park, am I correct? What?
You mean
No.
like from Trade Street or?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Trade Street,
don't- I
we
don't-
don't, correct?
Yeah, I don't think it is.
I don't think we do either. Do you have any idea what it would cost to get a sign done for something like that?
Well, yeah. Probably maybe about $300 for 2 signs.
Okay.
We'll back for all the, yeah. Yeah, the weight signs, and that totals about $3,500 for all the signs that we'll have to get. So they're about between 100 and 150 signs.
Okay.
So depending on how big we want, we'd have to get, we'd have to go off of, specs for right here off of Trade Street, so I imagine probably put one here on 4, then you could probably go like, well, we have to, yeah, the speed 5th Street would be Highway 153. But yeah. Say 3,500. And how many signs that would that council? But I could definitely do that just like.
I would like to entertain to the council that we look at using some of our tourism, thank you, that was the word I was searching for, our tourism funds on something like this. It was brought to my attention some back that we do not have those signs. And we have people coming to town for things like you can't eat breakfast or other things. We don't have any signage to our property.
I'm going to caution council that the cost Gary gave you is going to be for the signs, having already walked into this buzzsaw once before. There's going to be the cost of the pole, the mounting, the crash test, and the ODOT permitting interest we could put up. So I would, if you're saying 350,000, I would probably say it's going to cost us closer to $2,000 for that entire process at a minimum.
Yes.
Just so everyone's aware of
Yeah,
it. He's
asking
estimating.
about the sign part, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it would be significantly more than that, but
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted it to be something that we thought about, because that's something that I think could benefit us as a community to have some kind of directions to our park. We have softball tournaments there, we have lots of other things there, and
Yeah.
we don't have any signage
I
to our
had
park.
dog show training classes there for a while, and it was kind of hard to explain to people coming from out of town how to get to the park.
I think that's a good idea. Question, does that park have a name? Is it just the Amity City Park?
I mean, we could make it the, what was Gary's last name?
Just because if
Just Maddox
I think it is.
Avenue.
in the future, if we have additional parks, they will need designation with their own. If we're gonna make signs to say
I'm sure.
Amity City Park.
We have other parks. You can-
I know, I'm jumping ahead, but I just wanted to make sure it didn't have a given name that. No, where?
I saw that, wasn't all land donated by Watson? I remember there used to be a big old sign.
Oh, Holly, it's this sign for Holly.
So we should probably do a bit of research. I can.
Why don't we do some research?
Find out from all that too, because if we can go on their posts and everything, they're already there. so
Like where the
Yeah.
detours, or where the weight limit. Currently, we have the bridge weight limit.
Mhm.
That's gonna be coming down. There's a spot for a. person.
There you go.
But yeah, you can put it.
I mean,
so that's-
I
you can
think
put it
it's
on-
going on trades, I mean,
Yeah,
or,
if we can put one on their post, so it's a significant money.
Yeah.
Because my thread, we've got to go through that.
yeah, isn't there one in
Jumping
like
jack.
Bellevue or
True.
Sheridan or something or?
Yeah.
The only,
For
problem-
this way, yeah.
the only problem, again, they
Yeah.
have, it's where you mount the sign and where it's posted and it's, as you know, man, it's. We can put that in. As far as naming a park, I think I can look in there if there was or is a name to the park, like a donation, the family that gave it. I can also check and see what it would take to rename a park if there's a entity in the city that we wanted to name it after or for.
Right.
I mean, you have a contest.
I
I mean, it could be, and just as a,
That is a big category.
just to spit, true, but to spitball something, since we have to put a kiosk in there anyways of our historical relevance of the park with the Siletz tribe and the Grand Ron tribes. We could also incorporate naming the park as part of the kiosk and putting that in there, so it could be doable. But yes, it could become a monster of a project.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, if there's council consensus, might you know what steps to reach out to, like, figure out what the requirements might be and where you can have an idea of like.
Start looking.
Signs.
We can start researching it, and I can report back to council probably in July, give us a month to figure it out, to come back to you with something.
I would like it.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
Councilor McArthur?
I got nothing.
Marcus? Councilor Dunlap? Okay. Councilor Williams?
Nope.
I have nothing else to report this evening. I'll ask for a final motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all.